From washing his hands off of the whole thing, to hinting at the return of the Notorious One at the end of 2023, this is how Dana White opened up about Conor McGregor missing USADA tests. The boss doesn't want to get involved in any of it, and he made it pretty clear. During the post-fight press conference at UFC 286, Dana said that he doesn't want to be a part of the feud between Conor and USADA anymore. Instead, he asked the reporters to get in touch with Jeff Nowitzki, who's apparently the expert on the matter regarding such issues. Dana also said he doesn't really give a crap about the whole thing, and this is Jeff's problem now. The boss added he doesn't know anything about it at all and doesn't even want to know anymore. This is a little weird from Dana, cause McGregor was his cash cow for years now, and I'm sure not many of you would even buy his claims on not having a clue about what's going on behind the scenes. Dana likes to get involved in stuff, especially if it concerns his champions or any of his top fighters. I bet the whole thing is frustrating for him, cause he can't get Conor and USADA to come to terms on the matter, and it obviously means that his biggest star won't make his return to the UFC octagon, at least anytime soon. Conor dropped the ball here. He was supposed to submit samples to USADA before June back in 2023, but he failed to do so. The deadline was important, cause the UFC reportedly already booked the venue for December 2023, and they'd hoped to get Conor on the card for the year-end event. Mystic Mac was supposed to enter the anti-doping agency's testing pool at least 6 months before competing professionally, but it just looks as if he isn't all that interested in it anymore, or maybe he has some other plans that haven't been revealed yet. Whatever the case, the fans are being kept in the dark for now. Conor hasn't made any statements on the issue, but in the past, he's expressed his displeasure with USADA. He called them a trash organization that was trying to use him as a scapegoat. For what? I can't say. Who knows what goes around in Conor's head? He said that he was the most tested athlete in the history of the sport, and he's always been clean. That may have been true in the past, but lately that seems next to impossible. Don't take my word for it, guys. Several pros agree that McGregor has been a little naughty with his diet. I mean, how else does a guy gain that much muscle mass in such a short period of time? Ever since his last loss to Dustin Poirier, Conor hasn't been in the USADA testing pool. What's even weirder is how it was never officially announced, that the Notorious One was allowed to drop out of it, and it was only discovered later when Conor started posting shirtless photos of himself looking jacked. Joe Rogan was pretty vocal about that issue, and he even said that McGregor's samples might even burn a hole through the USADA cup. As funny as it sounds, it has some truth to it as well.
That's hilarious.
Conor got mad because I said that his piss looked like it could melt the USADA cup, and he said it looks like my piss could melt the USADA cup too.
Yeah.
And he's correct.
You're not fighting.
Conor, I'm not hating that. You look great.
Yeah.
And by the way, he does have a legitimate reason for doing whatever the he's doing, even if he's doing nothing.
Conor doesn't even pass the eye test, and avoiding USADA is only making him look more suspicious. Just get in the pool already if you've got nothing to hide, Conor. At this point, he's only making matters worse for himself, because the fans are starting to believe that the Irishman isn't interested in fighting anymore, and is only stringing them along because he wants to stay relevant. Some of you may be wondering why Conor started on a diet of steroids, if he managed to stay clean all of his career. It's because he was injured, and a horrible injury like the one he suffered just doesn't heal by itself. Of course, he had surgery, but none of the fighters who had their legs snapped in half were ever the same again. Anderson Silva is the biggest example of this, and Conor didn't want to suffer the same fate. So he probably started taking some stuff that would have helped him improve his bone density and make him heal faster than usual. The bulking up was just a side effect of those drugs, but that's what's more visible to the people. Obviously, Conor never confirmed any of it himself, but he didn't outright deny it either. In fact, he said something along the lines that people don't want him to recover and be well enough to play with his kids anymore. That to me sounds like he was admitting to taking some banned substances to help him recover. The thing that's really weird about this whole thing is that Conor wanted to fight in February 2023 and was willing to submit 2 mandatory samples so that he could be allowed to compete. I mean, why would he make such claims if he didn't want to get back in the octagon? The Notorious One thought that he could have his way with USADA and that he could have just gotten tested twice, and that would have been the end of the matter for him. The anti-doping agency stood its ground, though, and clarified that he had to spend at least 6 months in their pool. They did add that the UFC could always exempt Conor from all of it, but I doubt Dana would have wanted another Brock Lesnar situation on his hands. The former UFC heavyweight champ was allowed to compete without serving his time in the pool, but it was later revealed that he'd taken banned substances before his fight against Mark Hunt. Lesnar's win was overturned, and the press had a field day with UFC and Dana. So the boss just doesn't want to repeat those same mistakes. 'Cause even for his poster boy, it would mean pushing it too far. And if the Irishman tested positive, then it would have meant another crap storm for the UFC. McGregor not coming to terms with USADA affects a lot of people, and that includes his opponent, Michael Chandler, as well. Iron Mike is clearly being left out to dry, cause the man just can't seem to lock the Notorious One down for a match. After an exciting few fights in the UFC, Chandler called out Conor, and got his wish when the two of them were chosen as coaches for the 31st season of The Ultimate Fighter. They completed the shooting for the show, and it's even started airing now, but the fight at the end of it is nowhere in sight. Mike initially wanted to fight the Irishman in the fall of 2023, then he hoped to get it done by the end of the year, but it doesn't look as if it's even gonna happen at all. Chandler still believes that Conor wouldn't leave with a stain on his legacy, but at this point, that's just wishful thinking. Maybe he should just move on and follow what other ambitions he may have for his career, but I don't blame him for sticking around either, cause Conor keeps telling the world that he's never gonna retire. Whatever you may think about the guy, he sure does know how to keep the audience hooked. The Notorious One won't let pesky little USADA get in the way of things, and I feel that the battle's more about his ego than anything else. Before he missed out on the deadline to submit the samples, Conor did hand in his paperwork to get back in the pool, and USADA actually confirmed it as well. Since then, there's been no word from the agency either, but given how big of a celebrity Conor is, USADA seems to be playing it close to their chest. Conor may already be in the pool, and he may even have come to some sort of agreement on the timeline to submit his samples, but you can't know that for certain unless one of them speaks up about it. There have been subtle hints here and there, particularly from Dana, cause he talked about a huge event to conclude the UFC's 30th anniversary, and what's bigger than the return of the Notorious One? As I already mentioned, the UFC has already booked the venue for December 2023. I can also tell you that it's supposed to take place in Las Vegas, and you guys probably know how much Conor likes the fight capital of the world. You'll have to wait for any more details, but Dana, as well as McGregor, have promised that they're going to reveal everything on The Ultimate Fighter. The show is going to have 12 episodes and will run midway through August 2023, so that's plenty of time for them to reveal when and where Conor's going to be taking on Chandler. The Irishman seems confident on his return, and the boss looks unconcerned about the whole thing. I can't help but feel that Conor missing the supposed deadline for USADA tests is blown out of proportion. So from hinting at the return of the Notorious One at the end of 2023 to washing his hands off of the whole thing, this was how Dana White opened up about Conor McGregor missing USADA tests.